Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you about a really good app that's available for calculating the various fabric you need for borders and backing and binding. It's put out by Robert Kaufman and is available for you to download from the Google Store or the iPhone Store, wherever you get your apps from. And it's really, really helpful for calculating things. So this is what it looks like. Let's see if I can get this to show up here. There we go. Okay. I'm having a hard time with this. I can't figure out a way to do screen sharing. Oh, there we go. So what you can see here is it gives you your fabric measurements for various things, backing and batting, piece count, pieces to yardage area, which I have not used but could be very helpful if you're trying to figure out how much fabric you need when you're piecing. Binding, borders, and the binding, borders, and backing are the ones I use the most. It also has some other information on there. And it also very helpful that it tells you what quilt sizes you need for when you're figuring out, oh, I need to make a twin size quilt. What size should I make it? So let's go into the binding app, or binding part of it. And if you look here, it actually asks you for the width of your fabric, which in general is around between 40 and 42. So you put your number in there. And then how wide do you want your binding strips? And we'll be talking about that more later as far as what to use for the width of your binding strips. And then you put in the dimensions of your quilt. So if you have a quilt that's 60 by 80, you put that in. And it tells you exactly how much fabric you need. And this works out really great. I always add a little bit extra, but it's really helpful in figuring out how much binding you need. Now for backing of your fabric, let's go to that section. This one, it's going to ask you, let's see if we can get this. Okay, there we go. It's going to ask you again the width of your fabric, the width of your quilt, and the length. Now, overage is how much extra you have to allow for when you're taking your quilt to be quilted. So normally quilters, when you're putting it on a long arm, you need to have 4 inches extra all the way around, which obviously would be a total of adding 8 and adding 8 to the sides and adding 8 to the top. So if your quilt is a 60 by 80, you would need your backing to be 68 by 88. This is really important because that's what the quilter uses to hold your backing on to the frame when they're doing long arm quilting. So this is a very easy way to calculate what you need. As far as borders are concerned, this is really helpful for figuring out borders. Now for the quilt that you did this time, you didn't need to figure that out because that was part of the kit. But when you're figuring out your borders, you can see here, again, it asks for width of fabric, which is always important. And then the dimensions of your quilt, which is also important. And then you put in your amounts that you want for each of your borders. And so when you put in the dimensions of your quilt, that's your quilt top before the borders. So if your quilt is 40 by 60 before you put the borders on, that's what you would put in there. Then if you wanted border 1 to be what we did in our quilt was 3, 1, and 6, you would put border 1 as 3, border 2 as 1, and border 3 as 6. And then you would calculate how much fabric you need on each of those. Hopefully this is helpful for you. Again, it's Robert Kaufman, Quilting Calculators. And it has a lot of great information there for you and has been a really helpful tool to me. And hopefully it'll be a helpful tool to you. If you have any questions, just let me know, and hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.